everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. I am one of your hosts this week, Professor Chris G, and I'm not alone at all today. We have two other people here with us, and first is my training buddy until the end. He's here for the long haul, everybody. It's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, my man, how are you doing?
I am good. I am here till the end because I don't think you could find somebody willing to put up with your stuff for this long.
I don't think so. But who's also been putting up with us for a while is our evolutionary friend, our Patreon exclusive. It's good old Grant. Grant, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back. How's it going?
It's good. It's good to have you back. I called you our evolutionary buddy because I feel like you've done a little bit of everything on our show. So you've been a part of every last bit that we have done, and you're now starting up on our master journeys. So here we go. So, but let's go ahead and Doug. How have you been for this past week? It's been about a week since we've sat down in front of the microphone.
Yeah, nothing too crazy to report. No, it's May, but you wouldn't know it.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it if you walked outside. It's freaking cold. Like Illinois is literally making it so easy for me to just say, F it, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go and buy a house elsewhere and be warm all the time because I am hearing from my mother, who just recently relocated to a warm state, how she loves the weather out there. And I was like, yeah, stop rubbing it in.
Yeah, but the places you're going are you might get the warm weather, but you also got to deal with a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
I've lived in the warm and the cold. They both have their ups and downs.
Yeah, but I'm sure the warm has a lot more ups than the colder states.
Well, if you mean ups as in like up in a tornado, probably, yeah.
or a hurricane, or
some to those things. That being said, it's pretty
Justin,
down weather up here on the north side too. Like I just had snow like the other day.
Yeah, we just had it out here early this morning. I had to be up bright. Well, not even bright and early. It wasn't bright outside at all. It was still freaking dark. But I left and there was snow hitting my car on my way to work this morning. That was fun. That was fun. So I was like, ain't this a mess? But yeah, so I got that with Doug and Grant. How have you been these past few months?
Pretty good. Just hanging out, playing the new Pokemon games, Scarlet and Violet, and
nice,
doing all that.
Nice. And I haven't powered it up yet, and I know it's not Pokemon related, but I found a copy of the of a new highly anticipated game that's coming out in 2 weeks, and I cannot wait to dive on into it. I wanted to do it, but my system was not charged when I went to go play it, so I'm currently charging it up right now. So.
You know what? Maybe that's a sign.
Do not play this game until it comes out. Well, I'm still gonna buy it. So, but yes, I've been playing some Pokemon as well. I've really been playing Pokemon Go, even though I've kind of taken a step back from it just a little bit with some of the BS that Niantic has been throwing out there, and they're not. Niantic is starting to slowly make Pokemon Go not that enjoyable anymore. Grant, do you play Pokemon Go?
It's been a hot minute. I actually have been. They released Pikmin Bloom, and I've been liking that game.
Oh, okay. Yes, I play that.
Believe it or not, I actually like Pikmin more than Pokemon, but Pikmin only has like 3 games in the series, so it's not like a big adventure. But Pokemon is still really, really cool.
Yes.
I'll say Pikmin Bloom's pretty much just like a step counter, but it's pretty good.
It really is. I just wish I had more people that would play it around me, because I got into it, and I'm actually online. I'm actually an admin for one of the big groups for the Pikmin Bloom game, and
oh, nice.
Yeah, we have a really big community of over 10,000 people that are on it. Maybe I'll invite you on it. Remind me when we're off, and I'll probably shoot you a thing on there, and maybe you can find some people that's around your area, because we have people from everywhere here in the States all the way to outside of the States on it. So yeah,
it's pretty good. I just like it because it asked me about my day at the end of the day.
And I think me and you might be the same when it comes to Pikmin games. Like, I love Pikmin games, especially the latest one that they came out with.
Pikmin 4?
Yes.
Pikmin 4 is coming out in a couple months. I'm stoked.
So I am. My thing is, I love the games, but the only thing I hate is how quick it is to beat those games. Like, I feel like I get the game and I'm done with it within like.
Well, yeah, like 1 and 3 definitely had that like speed because there was a time limit, but 2 I really like because you could take your time and like really just dominate the hell out of it.
Yes.
Like.
So all right, that we learned something new. I got a fellow Pikminer. Doug, have you ever dwelled into the world of Pikmin?
I'm familiar with it in so much that I've heard people talk about it on podcasts.
I can give you a history lesson on it if you want.
Do you want a history lesson on Pikmin, Doug?
Well, we got an episode to get into.
Yes, all right. We'll save that for the next podcast. But
all right.
Yes, but
maybe we'll have Grant back on for our breakdown, and we can.
Oh yes, we can invite you back. How would you feel about coming back on, Grant? And I would say, because this is episode 1 that we're doing for season 24. So how about in about 3 to 4 weeks when we do our Poke Breakdown and we start talking all things Pokemon? Would you like to be a part of episode 2?
Absolutely.
All right. There we go. So there you go, everybody. We'll have Grant on for our Poke Breakdown when we do it. Yeah. I will make sure to message you about it when we get close to it. But today's episode, everybody, as we've talked about the past few weeks, we are starting up Master Journeys, getting into Ultimate Journeys, where Ash ultimately wins the Pokemon competition. But the reason that we're starting with Master Journeys is because we kind of want a little bit of a backstory. And to be completely honest, we didn't want to start with Journeys because Journeys I feel like the whole season of Journeys was just filler or getting to meet someone.
Character
all thriller, no filler.
Yeah. So and they kind of put everything together in the intro to this episode, like, oh, here's Go. He wants to capture every type of Pokemon, every Pokemon known to man. And here's Ash. He wants to become the greatest Pokemon master of all time. And Go wants to eventually meet the Pokemon Mew. Will he be able to do so? I mean, they kind of hyped that up just from the jump. So that's literally season 23 in a nutshell. So,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
saved you half a day on episodes right there.
Yes, even though...
Well, you missed all the episodes where they encounter X Pokemon and talk to X Pokemon and then left X Pokemon.
Yes. So, which is every season of Pokemon, which I do like that Journeys kind of takes a step back and gives Ash a little bit more time with his Pokemon. Like, he actually gathers his Pokemon during this season and trains them to become like the best. Like, he just gets his top Pokemon that he thinks is the greatest to go through this competition with. So I'm real interested to watch this in English. I've only seen these episodes thus far, besides this one, in Japanese. So I'm very excited to see how they translate over to English here in the States.
Hipster.
Yes. So let's see. So today's episode is episode 1136 overall, and it's called To Train or Not to Train, or translated from Japanese, Koharu and the Mysterious Eievui, which is Eevee, everybody. And it originally debuted December 11th of 2020 and released here in the States September 10th, 2021. So it's just a couple years. Well, it's about a year and a half.
No, it's not even. It's December of 2020. It's not even quite a year.
No, yes. We're in 2023 now, bro.
Oh, I understand. Are you talking the distance between the episode and where we are now, or are you talking the distance between the Japanese airing and the American airing?
No, I'm just where we are now in 2023.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
Yes.
What about the French airing?
I have no idea, and and I'm kind of skeptical on the English date, because I do know that these were released on, I think it's called Teletoon in Canada earlier than it was here in the States for Netflix. So, because I know they still air them weekly on Teletoon. So I'm kind of skeptical on that date, but I'm going to go with Wikipedia, because Wikipedia doesn't have any updates to the original release date. So that's what I'm going to go with. So
it's entirely possible that they're just counting the Netflix drop.
Which is possible. And I didn't do enough digging to find out if they're counting Teletoon or if they're counting, well, it says US dates. So yeah,
I was going to say, there you go. I mean, lest we forget, Canada is its own country.
Yes, it is. So, hey, but all right, everybody. So I have the episode up here, To Train or Not to Train. Are you guys ready to jump on in?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. That being said, I like to go through, so I'll go ahead and start this week's episode, and then I will hand it on over to good old Grant, and then from there I will hand it over to Doug, and we'll kind of go around in that little circle like we normally do. Everybody cool with that?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So let's go ahead and hit the play button. So we are actually watching this, everyone. And for anyone that wants to follow us, because I know there's a few of you out there that do, these are currently on Pokemon.com. So we start this off with cute little Pikachu going, "It's a Netflix original series." And it just flies right in. And this is how we start every single episode of Master Journeys, everybody. So,
oh, that's annoying.
Yeah, it's so I'll go through it this once, and this is the only time, because I'm not going to repeat this every single week. But the narrator goes, Ash's goal is to battle one of the world's greatest trainers, Leon. Goal's goal is to catch one of every kind of Pokemon, including Mew. This is the story of their adventure-filled journey through the world of Pokemon. And we see Ash smiling with all his Pokemon, Go with some of his, and we are jumped straight into the episode, everybody. And this episode is going to be a little different because we have a lot of Pokemon interaction outside of subtitle for like official characters, everyone. So just kind of bear with us through this episode. But we start with Yamper, and Yamper is so happy. He's like, yep. And Ash and the professor is looking on at Go, and Ash is like, Go, it looks great on you. And he's like, "What a uniform!" Of course, Go goes, and he's like, "I look so handsome in this uniform." So what he's talking about is, Go's getting ready to go to school, and he's going back to school, and his school has sanctioned uniforms that they have to wear while they're inside of the school, and he has. Go has his nice little what is that Pokemon called? Swabble?
Sobble?
Yeah,
Sobble.
Sobble. There you go. He has a nice little Sobble on his arm, and he kind of matches Go's outfit, because Go's outfit is white, gold, and like kind of like baby blue, and Sobble is basically the same colors, and he's looking on at Go, and Go is like, "You gotta admit, everything looks good on me," and he does the little like sophisticated like anime face, and he's all up in his feelings, and this
I've
is
seen you make that pose.
Oh yeah, I know. Yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
I'm very familiar with that pose.
That's your go-to. That's your you don't even realize you're doing it half the time.
Oh, I know. It's just second nature now. and that's when his sister Chloe, everybody, just looks on. She's like, "Whatever. See you later, Ash." And Go is like, "All right, are you ready, Sobble? Let's go. See y'all later." And that's when the professor, Ash, Yamper, and Pikachu all wave goodbye to Chloe and Go. So from here, I'm going to hand this on over to you, Grant, for this next following scene.
Alrighty. So they go over, it cuts over to some doctors or professors in a laboratory, and they're looking at Eevee and all its different evolutions on a screen. Then it cuts to Eevee, and Eevee's looking at the large glass building, and both Glaceon and Espeon are looking at each other. Jolteon's licking Flareon's face.
That has to be a little spicy.
Yeah. And you got Umbreon sleeping and Leafeon just kind of staring at it like, "Yep, that's a thing." And then Sylveon walks right behind Eevee, like humming a song.
My favorite Eevee evolution, and I kid you not, Sylveon is my favorite. When they came out with Sylveon, I fell in love with Sylveon.
Yeah,
that
I like Sylveon.
I love Sylveon. But all right, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. I just wanted to throw out there that that's my favorite Eevee evolution.
Oh, for sure. So Eevee gets curious. And he's like thinking about Sylveon walking, and he's thinking that he could one day be a Sylveon. So he's gonna try to act like Sylveon, walks like Sylveon right behind Sylveon, and then trips on a rock, falls over, and yeah.
Hate when that happens.
It's right on his face.
So he gets up and he sees Vaporeon like doing a tail wag at him, and he's like, "Maybe I could be a Vaporeon. That's pretty cool." And he starts waving his tail. He's like, "Yeah, let's do that." So he jumps in the water and starts swimming like the Vaporeon. He's like, "Yeah," but then he's like, "Oh, wait a minute, I can't swim. This is a bad idea. I regret all my life decisions." And falls and starts to drown. And then as he's bubbling up, he wakes up on the beach, and Paneri goes and checks on him and drags him back into the lab.
Yes.
And yeah.
All right. And Doug, I'm going to hand this next part over to you. A very critical moment in this episode.
Yes. So this is probably one of my most fascinating scenes, which is either an indictment on the episode or a plus for the episode. That's TBD. Because they're back at the lab in front of the big computer that they were looking at a few moments ago, and looks like the head researcher and a couple of assistants, and they've got an array of stones, and at first they're like, "This is a for goodness sakes,
Oh,
Firestone.
Firestone. This is a Firestone," and we actually get to see the process of a stone triggered evolution, because Eevee just kind of puts one paw on it, and then we see and it's engulfed in flames, and then when the dust settles, Eevee is just sitting there like, "Sup?" and nothing. And I was floored. That's
not what they taught us in the Kanto series.
I didn't know that was a thing. I knew you could in game language. I knew if you liked your Bulbasaur and you didn't want it to evolve to an Ivysaur, I know you could press B and you could hold it. And we saw the equivalent of that in the episode where they're in the field with all the Bulbasaur and Ivysaurs. But I did not know that a stone could miss, I guess is the way to say it. And, and the assistants are stumped. They're like, "It's not evolving today either." And they're like, "Oh, come on, don't jump to conclusions." And then they pull out a Thunderstone. I lost it for a second. A Thunderstone, and Eevee's like, "Oh, shiny," and puts its paw on that, and we get the electricity, and then we see that doesn't take, and Eevee's just sitting there like, "This is awesome. I like these stones. They're nice and smooth, and I'm confused why you're looking at me with all those funny sunglasses." And then we get the title sequence. And
what did you think about the title sequence, Doug?
I liked it. Obviously this is like the first time I'm like full-fledged getting the intro. Come back to me by the time we do our next Poke Break. I might have a different opinion on it.
I have to say I think it's okay, but I 1000% take the Japanese version over this version tenfold. I'm gonna forward you the Japanese intro, Doug, at some point, and I'm just gonna have you watch that, and then I think you're gonna feel a certain way when you come back to this every single week in the middle of an episode.
Yeah, because this was kind of our first like instance of a title sequence, kind of hidden before the title screen, but Black and White does that.
Yes.
So we're back and we see the title screen and we see Eevee. We see Pikachu spinning Ash's hat, and we see to train or not to train, and it lands on Pikachu's head, and he gives the anime peace sign, except Pikachu doesn't really have much in the way of individual fingers, so it's just, you can see there's a little, anyway. And yeah, we are back
in the episode
on the school grounds.
All right, and from here, so Go and Chloe are walking to school, and Go is questioning Chloe, and he's like, "So how come you've never tried to catch a Pokemon?" And she just puts her head up, and she's in just a sophisticated way, and she's like, "I've got Yamper." And Go's like, "Yeah, but I thought Yamper was your dad's Pokemon." And he's like, "I'm talking about a Pokemon of your very own partner." And she's like, "I may never get one." And Go is just astonished. He's like, "Wait a minute, why would you say that?" And she's like, I feel like everybody thinks that just because I'm the professor's daughter that I need to have a Pokemon. And I just don't think that that's the case." And Go is like, "Oh." And Chloe is like, "It came up during an assignment I had to do about my dreams for the future." And Go is like, "Oh, geez, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring all this up. She's like, yeah, you know what? Don't worry about it. Mom and Dad and I talked, and I'll be able to decide for myself whether I want to be a Pokemon trainer or not, and what path that I will take. So there's nothing to apologize for, Go. And Go is like, all right, well, let's go. And then their teacher walks up right behind him and is like, Go, Chloe, morning for you two. And they're like, oh, hey, I told you I keep my promises. And Chloe's like, promise? She's like, I promise I'd always come to school when there's a test. And the teacher just looks up. So apparently Go has been ditching school and only shows up on the important days, which I guess you could do when you're a Pokemon trainer. As long as you keep your grades up, I guess that's perfectly fine. And the teacher just kind of gawks and she's like, ha, yeah, we'll see. I'll see you both in class. And Chloe was like, I didn't know you had an agreement with the school. And it goes like, I sure did. And the teacher's like, hey, one thing though, make sure that you keep your Pokemon in the garden because they're not allowed inside of the school. And that's when Sobble is sent over to the Pokemon playground. They have a whole playground for the Pokemon outside of the school. And Sobble, no joke, and this is how Sobble is until it gets older, which you're going to end up seeing the evolution for later on. But Sobble is just a baby. So it's just like, you're leaving me at school and I've been with you this whole time, like a parent leaving their child at school for the first time. And they're like, wait a minute, I'm not going to be with you anymore? What is this? What are you doing? Why are you leaving me? And Sobble just starts crying and goes like, stop crying, Sobble. And Sobble makes Executor cry. And then it makes all the other Pokemon at the park cry. You just see all these Pokemon. You see Abra, Pidgey, Starmie, and Zubat, Bulbasaur, Jigglypuff. Too many Pokemon to count, and they're just all just crying. And that's when Go sends out his Cinderace. And he's like, Cinderace, please calm down Sobble. And Cinderace is like, wait a minute, what are you doing? And Go is like, please look after Sobble until I get back. I'll be back. And Cinderace is like, wait a minute, you're leaving me with all these babies? Wait a minute, no. And Cinderace is just, and he picks up Sobble. He's like, it's okay. So, all right, and I'm going to send this next part over to you, Grant.
All right, so after that whole ordeal, it cuts to some binoculars and Jesse going, a park plenty of Pokemon. Hardworking school students preoccupied inside. It's a steal. We can just, snatch them up and no one would even notice. Boba Fett agrees. And then it cuts back to Yamper walking up to the big laboratory building full of glass. He's just walking along, skipping along, and then Eevee, hears something and gets very curious and walks right over to the glass and looks down and sees Yamper just kind of walking along the path, singing a beat, Electric Avenue, and Eevee's very curious on this, and he's like, "This is going to be good." So he walks up and he gets right behind Yamper and just starts skipping along with him, and then a heart feather thing lands on Yamper's nose, and Yamper, is allergic and sneezes. And Eevee decides to sneeze as well because
adorable.
It's just
adorable.
Yeah.
And if you didn't Dad, you have no soul, and I refuse to go on.
It's so cute because you can tell this Eevee is still a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which shame on them for trying to evolve this baby. This Eevee is fine the way that it is, right?
Yeah.
I think we're gonna find out later on that this Eevee is gonna be introduced to us as the new type of Eevee that ends up coming out whenever they release a new Eevee.
I mean, is there one confirmed? I don't know.
No, well, not in the Master Series. So, spoiler alert: this Eevee never ends up evolving.
I figured that it's kind of like being upset that Pikachu didn't evolve to a Raichu.
Yeah. So
it's holding an Everstone. I don't know.
Yep, right under all that fluff around its neck.
Yeah.
That's why it won't evolve. It has an Everstone.
And we just never thought to groom it. There you go, son of a gun.
Yep. So, all right, Grant, you can go ahead and finish the scene off if you want to. So, after Yamper sneezes.
Yeah. So after Yamper sneezes, then Eevee sneezes, and they start. Yamper's like, "What's up?" Eevee kind of looks over. And Yamper gets kind of angry and is like, "Yo, get out of here."
And this is cute too, because Eevee, like Yamper, just starts to spark up all around its neck. It's like spark. And then Eevee is like, "Yeah, I could do that too." And it just starts fluffing up its little fluff around its neck, and it's like Eevee. I was like, "This is so cute," and then Eevee just goes in and just headbutts it.
Yep.
Oh man.
And they both go, yeah.
All right, Doug, you wanna take it?
So yeah, after they headbutt each other, they're both kind of down for the count, and Yamper kind of gets up first. He starts sniffing around Eevee, and Eevee pounces up, and they're both wagging their tails, and they do kind of like the most dog-like thing I think I've seen a Pokemon do since we were first introduced to Growlithe, because they literally walk in a circle and they sniff each other's, behinds, and then Yamper kind of goes ahead and he's like, I think I can fuck with you, and and then they kind of look back towards the entrance of the building, and we see the assistants running hell for leather with a net towards the Eevee, because it's clear that the Eevee has gotten out. I mean, obviously, for goodness sakes, we saw it inside the building, and then the next thing we knew, it was following Yamper. So Yamper reacts, and I think Eevee is too young to know that to run. So Yamper's kind of like, "You got to go," and kind of pushes it, and the assistants are going. They're going full speed, and they're like, "You're not going to mess with our work." And there's
totally the wrong vibes that we started getting at the beginning of this episode.
Absolutely. And then just randomly, Ash and Pikachu just happen to be hanging out around the school grounds, which is a little strange. And
not really.
No, because we're kind of brought in because I guess Ash and Pikachu, or I guess Ash, but Pikachu might as well be included with as much as it does. We're taking Yamper for a walk, and they're like, "Boy, does that Yamper always run off when we go for a walk?" And Pikachu's kind of looking around, and then it sits up on its back legs, and it was kind of like, "Yamper is yonder," and we see Yamper and Eevee running in front of the assistants, who again have a net, and Ash is like, "Well, we should probably go see about that." And Pikachu's like, "I'm 10 steps ahead of you." And then we see Team Rocket on the outside of the school grounds, and they've literally got shovels because they're going to dig their way in.
Yes, they are.
And why they're going to dig their way in dressed as students when they could just as easily try to walk in is beyond me, because we're not in the era of intelligent Team Rocket, apparently.
Well,
And
balloon Meowth.
and yes, yeah, and they have feminized Jessie probably more than. And it's weird to say this, considering just the other week she was literally hanging out on a beach in a bikini, but this one made me still feel kind of eh.
Oh, the way that they put her in pigtails, and
Yeah, pigtails and the big freaking eyes, and
and James is in the background, and James is kind of dressed up as well. And well, they made Jessie look like a schoolgirl. So she's dressed fully in the school gear. And James doesn't look. I mean, if he didn't have the bandages on his face, he wouldn't look bad in that school uniform. I'm not even gonna lie. Like they both don't look terrible. These are some decent school uniforms that they're both wearing. And
Meowth looks pretty rough.
Yeah.
I did not catch that Meowth was standing on Wobbuffet in the first airing. I just caught that now, and that's hilarious. I'm not, because Meowth he's miserable first and foremost. I don't know if he's miserable because he's wearing a wig, or he just doesn't like the outfit, or what, or he's having trouble balancing.
Or I think it's all of the above. I think Meowth is hot, and he's balancing, and he's seen better days, and just
he's seen better days.
so yeah, I think it's all of the above. But sorry, continue, Doug.
I was going to say, so then we cut and we see that Yamper is running ahead, but he stops because Eevee is, not used to all this exercise, and he's tuckered out. So Yamper all of a sudden gets a sniff, and he recognizes Chloe's scent. He's like, she's around here. And they look and they see that they're in front of the school, and then Yamper realizes, oh, this Eevee is exhausted, and then we hear the assistant go, there it is, and Yamper's like, yo, we gotta move. So they squeeze in between. There's like gaps in the fence, and they get in, and then the assistants are like, curse their small bodies.
Now how are we gonna get in there?
And then we are brought into a classroom, and they're in the middle of an exam.
Yes. And from here, Go is kind of thinking to himself, and that everyone is taking this exam, and Go is thinking, he's like, man, am I sure about this answer? He's like, oh, no time. Next question. And all of a sudden, he's like, yes, I studied with Ren. I know this answer. And then you see the professor's assistant, Ren, just pop up, and he's like, yeah. And then from here, you hear Yamper outside barking, and Chloe goes over and looks out the window, and she's like, oh no, how did you get over here? Did you follow me to school? And Chloe gets up. She's like, excuse me. And the teacher's like, what's going on? There's a test going on. And Chloe's like, she's like, oh, nothing. It's just, it's the other, dear, you know what? I'll be right back. And she just runs out of the classroom in the middle of a test. So I hope she at least had 99% of that test done before she ran out. But
yeah, because it's not addressed again.
I know. So she runs out, and she's like, Yamper, what are you doing here? And Yamper's just bouncing around. He's like, yeah. Hey, I found you. I sniffed you out. Look at me. I'm a dog. And Yamper's like, you know what? Follow me. And just starts running, and she's like, okay. And so she starts following Yamper, and Yamper goes all the way over to a flower garden and goes over to a flower bush. And Yamper's like, look in here. Look what I found. And then all of a sudden you see the bush just rattling, and Chloe's like, what is that? An Eevee? and Chloe and Evie meet eyes, and they're just like, oh, I like you. And Evie's like, I like you too. And they just meet eyes and they have a moment. And Yamper is like, Yamper, look over here. Look over here. And then Chloe looks up and she sees that the other professors from the lab that are trying to find this Evie are searching this garden for Evie. And it's made to look like these guys are like bad guys. So Chloe is like, oh no.
But one of them literally has a net. I don't know, like.
Yeah, where's the Pokeball? Like they have this Eevee and no Pokeball.
I think a Pokeball would ensue that it is captured, whereas this might be a wild one. I don't know.
So,
well, yes, but don't the Pokemon that you meet at the beginning, like, you know, Ash, for instance, I mean, obviously he was late, so he didn't get the experience, but didn't Bulbasaur, Squirtle, and Charmander have Pokeballs?
Yeah, but I think those ones were, the starters are like essentially bred to be starter Pokemon, whereas like I think the Eevee was more like, I don't think it's being trained for that. I think it's like a test experiment to be poked and prodded, and it got away because it was tired of being poked and, well, not that Eevee. That Eevee just kind of wandered off, but same idea.
yeah.
Where it just kind of.
Fair enough. I just, you know, I mean, yeah, I think you do have a point that a Pokeball would imply ownership.
Yeah.
Which we haven't gotten to that point yet. But there has to be a better way than running around campus with a net.
Well, I mean, they never really showed how Eevee even got out in the first place. It just kind of cut to Eevee being out of the entire building. Like,
it's kind of implied that there's like a doggy door on the front door, and Eevee can just kind of come and go.
Kind of. So the assistants are looking around and it's like, when we catch you this time, you'll never escape again. Like complete bad.
Sinister.
Yeah,
like that's, you know,
they have sinister vibes, like bad vibes. And Chloe looks up and she hears this and she's like, oh no. All right, Evie, you need to be quiet. And she picks up Evie, and Evie's like, Evie! And Evie and her have a moment. And that's when we get the who's that Pokemon? And of course, because Pokemon has caught up to good times, it's Eevee, of course, because this episode is starring Eevee. And then we are brought back, and Grant, I'm going to hand this part over to you with Ash running around looking for Yamper.
Yeah, so Ash is running around looking for Yamper, and they run past the school again. They're right up at the gate, and he's like, yeah, Yamper's just gone. Where could he have gone? And Pikachu's yawning. He's getting tired. And Ash is like, yo, that's the school they go to. And it cuts to Go kind of walking with his Rotom phone and sees Chloe over a bush during class. And she's shushing him. And Yamper starts barking. And he's like, what? And then, like, he sees Chloe with, like, an Eevee in her arms, and he's like, stop, shut up, stop talking, we don't need to get in trouble here. He's like, oh, sorry about that. What are you doing out here with an Eevee? And Chloe's like, you see, Eevee's an amazing Pokemon. Who can evolve into one of 8 different forms.
And Chloe's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
So, all right. And you know, I'll let you continue. This scene goes on for just a little bit longer.
Yeah. So they're like, that's amazing. So why are you hiding behind the bush? And she's like, some people are chasing this Eevee. And Go is like appalled. And she's like, those people over there. And he turns around and sees this scientist with the net, like, looking for the Eevee, and he's like, yeah, they look pretty suspicious, like, they're not hiding it at all. They're just blatantly doing this. And, yeah,
and then
Eevee's barking, and, there you go.
And then that's when we're transferred right over to Team Rocket. Doug, you want to take it from here?
Right. So, we're over with Team Rocket, and they have incorporated one of their little gimmicks, and it's a Snorlax. It's it's a Snorlax vacuum, you see, and you know how wide Snorlax can open its mouth, so it's and
just like that, Doug.
Just like that. I'm not redoing it, so if you want to go back, you can hit the back button to your heart's content. And we see the Team Rocket is over at the playground, and they are just hoovering up all these Pokemon that are essentially in the daycare facility. And what's the Pokemon that go throughout to watch the Sobble?
Cinderace.
Cinderace is holding on to Sobble for dear life, and he catches a gloom at the last second, and Team Rocket's pissed. They're like, "Stop getting in the way of our evilness," and he's like, "That's why, hence why we have invented hyper mode." And he hits a button on the remote, and the suction power increases, and they stop it because the net's completely full, and we look over and we see Ash and Pikachu are running, and we're like, "Oh my God, it's this guy! We can't get rid of this kid." And they don't really seem too concerned, and we find out why in a second, because Ash falls in a hole.
Yes, he does.
I mean, there's not really any way to sugarcoat it. He falls in a hole, and they're like, for goodness sakes, you've been coming at us for 24 seasons. We saw this coming. So, we used our top trap, and
they dig holes in every single season of Pokemon.
Well, it's like it's Old Faithful, I
was say, I like how Team Rocket has to use a disguise and use a net, whereas the scientists were just running around with a net. Like, no one cared.
No, not at all.
I mean, this is a school, right? For goodness sake.
Yeah.
So they're like, we busted out, our A1 trap, and then we hear the assistants. They're like, "Hey, cut the shit," and they're like, "Oh, it's Brainy Twerps," and Go and Chloe come running up, and they're like, "Oh my God, they got all the Pokemon," and and then we find out that the assistants are chasing Go and Chloe, and they're like, "All right, release the Eevee at once." So Go and Chloe are kind of stuck in the middle of an undesirable situation, and Chloe's like, "You can forget it. I saw that you were chasing after this Eevee, and what you're doing ain't right."
All right, and I just want to pause you real quick. Okay, so, I mean, what we end up finding out about these assistants, this doesn't match up too well to me. And the assistants see that these people just stole all these baby Pokemon or all these Pokemon that are being watched. And their only concern is Eevee. Up to this point, like there's a whole bunch of Pokemon just in a vacuum, really right in front of them, and they have no care in the world, and they're like, no, just hand over this Eevee. Like, what?
That's not my damn job.
So I just wanted to take a step back there, Doug. Like they literally they gave no fucks.
Well, it's priorities.
Yeah.
I mean, Team Rocket could kind of just waltz away at this point.
Yeah, for real. But all right, Doug, I'll let you finish off this scene.
So, Go is in hero mode, and he's like, we're not giving Eevee back, especially to certain people like you. And then we cut to Ash and Pikachu in the hole, and Ash is like, I recognize that voice. And then the assistants like throw their hands up, and their eyes bug out, and they're like, we're not villains. Which is something a villain would say, by the way, if anybody's keeping score at home.
Yes.
And they're like, we're good guys. We're just, lab researchers, and we've been working with that Eevee. We're evolutionary researchers. And Chloe's like, you're researchers at a lab. Interesting, but yet you carry a net.
And you can't call this Eevee back with a Pokeball. Huh.
And then from off in the distance, we hear Ash, down in the hole go, hey, Go, Chloe, what you doing? You want to help your brother out down here? And Go turns around, he's like, and he's looking around, and and then we see the anime, like, exclamation marks. And then we see that he's yelling from the hole, and he's like, Team Rocket are the bad guys, and the show is kind enough to point out Team Rocket and be like, these are the bad guys.
They're holding us against our will.
And then this is the first time that Go and Chloe look at the playground, and they're like, son of a gun, it's completely empty. And he's like, they have Sobble and Cinderace. He's like, son of a gun. And then we hear Sobble is crying out for Go, and Team Rocket's just like, well, I don't hear anything, it's just the wind. And
this whole time Team Rocket could have walked away while they were doing all this dialogue, and they could have gotten away with some of these Pokemon.
And then Go has to go kick his hero mode up another notch, and he's like, you let these Pokemon go right now. And Team Rocket's like, yeah, I don't think we're going to do that. Matter of fact, we're just going to do our motto right quick. And we get our first look at the Team Rocket motto in Master Journey form, and it's like this badass, like, movie trailer vibes, and it's
they make them look cool because they're getting ready to make them kind of irrelevant pretty soon in this series.
Right.
Yep. So
they're getting their moment, and then Meowth bops in, and we get a little bit of Wobbuffet, and then we get this stylized, cool Team Rocket R. And then we cut to Ash and Pikachu, who have apparently said, fuck it. And they're literally climbing up the side of the hole, which if they could have done that to begin with, they could have been out by now. But I guess Ash was kind of banking on, somebody giving him a helping hand, for goodness sakes. And so they're climbing up the hole, and they make a call, and a Pelipper.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to get that Pokemon.
That's in my wheelhouse. I think he was.
He's been
I want to
around.
say he was either gold and silver or he was ruby and sapphire, one of the two.
Ruby and Sapphire.
There you go. See, he was in my wheelhouse. And he comes out of the sky and he drops a freaking warhead out of his mouth. And we find out that it's not really a warhead, it's a robot. And
So
he's like, what are we going to get for our... And Meowth's like, what are we going to get for our prize?
So I'll give a little bit of a background. So in the beginning of Journeys, and it might have even been before that. I don't know how long they were doing this bit, but Pelipper drops this machine, and on the inside are a bunch of Pokeballs, and Meowth's little gold piece on the top of his head unlocks it like you would like one of those twisty things that you would see at like a Walmart, like your local
Gumball
store.
machine.
Yeah, gumball machine. So and then you twist it, and both Jesse and James get one Pokemon each out of this machine, and it's a random Pokemon. It can be a dud, or it can be as great as like a Charizard. And these Pokemon are trained to listen to whoever gets them out of the machine. And all the trainer needs to do is just know their attacks. And it's a one-time use that they go back into the Pokeball, and then Pelipper takes the machine away at the very end. So that's what this machine is.
That sounds like something that could have been implemented in the video games.
Yeah,
like,
but that could get a little messy.
Well, it could.
I mean, they did take away the box, essentially. Like, they just have it in your bag now.
Yeah, they did. You don't even have to go back to the Pokemon Center to swap out your Pokemon after you get 6 in your party.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
it's like a thing now.
Yeah, you can do it through your Wi-Fi system on your thing. It just teleports the Pokemon off of your belt into the little Rotom machine.
So with some caveats, like you can't like once you like enter gyms and stuff, like it's got a cap on it where you can't use it. But like if you're just like out in the wild, you can just swap them all day.
Yep.
Well, yeah, that one I get. But wouldn't that be as simple as, I am sick of getting worked at this gym. You step out for a second and then
switch your Pokemon. Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of that's why a lot of the gyms have those like puzzles, because like you get past the first one, you battle like a trainer or two, and they beat the shit out of you, and you go back, you got to go do the puzzle again.
Yeah.
Which it's not. Some of those puzzles are not necessarily like easy. Some of them are just like a maze, but then other ones are just
the most
ridiculous.
The most annoying one was in Scarlet and Violet, when you literally had to go out and talk to random people out in the wild to get a recipe to go back to the gym to give them the right recipe that you need in order to battle the gym leader. That one was the most annoying. I don't know about you, Grant. Did you like that one?
I mean, that was okay. Like, I don't think any of them really, as far as the puzzles, really tripped me up at all. Like,
maybe it's because I didn't read the dialogue properly, and then I went out.
I know the Sunflora one kind of tripped me up a bit, because I was like, what am I doing? And then I know the bug one at the start was like a bit of a wild one, where it's like, oh, this is like soccer.
Oh yes, yeah. You have to make the goal. Yeah.
With like the olive or something.
Or the race down the mountain one when you have to
oh yeah, that was a fun one.
The little sleigh one, that was fun. So
I mean, none of them compare to the original Kanto, like Sabrina's gym having to do that damn like teleporter maze.
Oh my god, I hated that thing so much, because I was
like, that's what I say. Like you could go back and leave and heal, but then you had to do that damn teleporter maze every damn time. Like,
and you had to remember which one it was. Like I think there was a point where I just went online and it was like left, right, up.
I found a trick. The trick I found in that one is just like go the same way every time, and eventually you'll just get there. Like, But yeah, that one was definitely the top one of like, damn it.
Yeah, I hated that one because one wrong turn and you're battling like 10 different trainers trying to get out of there. So,
Right.
but all right, back to the episode. So Meowth gets up and he puts his little charm inside of the little twisty knob gumball machine. And they twist it, and Meowth is like, "Oh, I hate this! I hate this! I hate this!" And you see Giovanni's face where he kind of smiles, and the Pokeballs are supposed to come down, but they don't come down. And Jesse's like, I think our prize master isn't mastering." And James is like, "Come on, we need these Pokemon because we got to get out of here with all these other Pokemon." And while he's shaking the machine, Meowth is still on the inside, hanging upside down, going, oh my God. And they're like, oh, it's empty. Even though it's not empty, you can see all the Pokeballs on the inside. And they're like, heads up, Pelipper, the Pokeballs aren't coming out. Make this right or get ready for a fight. and James is like, it's not going to come back. And Pelipper comes back and is like, you know what? Fine. I'll go ahead and battle since the machine's not working. And then Jesse's like, all right, it's back. Now give it a command, James. And James is like, huh? Me? And this is when Yamper goes running in and goes like, yeah, Yamper, give it all you got. Let's go. And Yamper's like, yeah, let's go. And James is like, Pelipper, wing attack. And Yamper goes down and does, I believe that's Volt.
Spark.
Is it Spark or Volt Switch? I thought it's Spark.
It's Spark.
Oh, okay. It does.
Volt Switch is like that. Volt Switch is an attack where you hit them and then they get swapped out with another Pokemon.
Oh, okay. You're right. So he does that attack, and Yamper gets hit by wing attack and gets flown back on its head. And Eevee is like, I'll help you. And Eevee's like, you know what, Yamper? I think the both of us can do it. So Eevee starts flaring up its tail. It starts having like a little bit, you see a little bit of electricity coming out of Eevee, and Yamper has electricity coming out of it as well. They're like, oh, these two make a really good team. And
quick question.
What's up?
I don't mean to cut you off. Is this honestly a thing where Eevee can do electric attacks?
Well, okay, so yeah. So the way that they frame it, and you'll get a full episode explaining this a little later on. But this Eevee is a special Eevee, so so it's going to end up hanging around all of its evolutionary types, and by it hanging out with its evolutionary types, it gains the knowledge to be able to use some of those attacks on its own. So it'll soon be able to use fire attacks and electric attacks and dark attacks like later on in the series. But I mean,
is that why the opening scene was so crucial with Eevee looking around at all the different ones and like walking with the Fairy-on and trying to get in the pool with the Vaporeon. Okay.
Yeah, so this is not the last episode. So this Master series, or the Journey series itself, has 3 different storylines. So Chloe is with Eevee and trying to figure out what type of evolution that Eevee wants to evolve into. Go wants to capture every single Pokemon and ends up going into a Project Mew thing. I'm not going to give full-blown spoilers on that. And then Ash is gearing up for this tournament that he's getting ready to go into. So it's all 3 of those storylines, which, I mean, yeah, we still get a few filler episodes, but it's not as much because they got to keep this thing flowing as quick as they can. Yeah. So, but yeah, Eevee and Yamper start flaring up, and Jesse is like, don't just stand there, James, while they're flaring up. Tell it to do another attack. And James is like, hydro pump, and Meowth's like, oh yeah, that's a strong attack. And
that was so random. He just popped into the attaboy.
and Pelipper uses hydro pump, and then Eevee and Yamper both use spark together, and they gear up basically as one and just go and just hit Pelipper straight into the air. And Pelipper goes flying off, and we get the little signal in the air that Yamper is now gone. And it's just funny because Jessie and James are usually the ones. She's like, oh, so that's what we look like when we blast off. Because they're kind of looking up. They're like, oh, shit. All right, Grant, I'm going to hand this part over to you.
So yeah, they're like, shit, there goes Pelipper. And the lab people are like, did you see that? That was pretty crazy. And Chloe's like, you both worked really hard. You guys did great. Extra bacon tonight. And then then it cuts to Team Rocket dragging their like Snorlax net with all the Pokemon in it still. And they're just trying to sneak away. And Ash is like, Pikachu, use Iron Tail. And Pikachu gets right on that shit and just cuts it right open and frees all the Pokemon. And they're all free. And it goes like, hey, Cinderace and Sobble, you there? And Ash is like, Pikachu, use Thunderbolt. Pikachu jumps up, gives a nice big old Thunderbolt shock, and fries Team Rocket. And they blast off again for this several hundredth time, and then star out over there.
All right.
Ash is like, you did it, buddy.
Like you always do.
Yeah.
And all right, so after that, Doug, you wanna go and kind of finish this off?
So after all the hoopla and everybody's gotten out of their respective holes and whatever, the researchers and the head professor, or the head researcher, is apologizing for her dim-witted assistants running around hunting an Eevee with a net on a campus, and they're like, please forgive us, we're honestly just dumb, we're not nefarious. And the professor is like, well, it appears that my students unfortunately got the wrong impression of your assistants, and that was not our intention, and everybody's just apologizing. It's very awkward. It's not really how I would wrap up an episode, but thankfully it picks up here in a second, because the researchers turn to go, and the Emperor's like, but my friend, what, and he looks up at Chloe and is like, are you gonna do something? I had fun. That Eevee was interesting. And we cut and we see that Chloe is like locked on to Eevee, and Eevee, you can tell, is kind of thinking something. And then Eevee looks back at Chloe, and then thinks back to meeting her when he stepped out of the bush, and running and getting to know her, and realizes that she kept him safe today, and they're walking, and Eevee's like, alley-oop, and he jumps out of the head researcher's arms and does a hero's leap into Chloe's arms, and the sun flares up, and it's unnecessarily dramatic, and Ash has to be Captain Doofus. He's like, that Eevee really likes you, don't you think? Like, no shit. It just ran. Anyway. And the professor, or the head researcher, she has a name, for goodness sakes.
It's like Janichi or something like that.
Hold on. Paneri. Pinery, or I don't know if I'm saying that right. Pinery, yeah, Pinery. Pinery's like, well, it would appear so, and she's like, this is a unique Eevee. It doesn't seem to be able to evolve, which obviously we saw just a little bit of with the stone experiments earlier. And awestruck, she's like, 8 possible evolutions and it won't evolve. No shit. And Pinery's like, yup. And then we get like a little explanation about how Eevee possesses a unique strand of DNA, and she says maybe this one's a little bit more unstable, or maybe it just hasn't found its true path, which is a very Pokemon sentence. And maybe it's just feeling a little lost, and we get a close up on Eevee and its big doe eyes, and the Pinery walks up and she's like, if you're okay with it, would you be willing to look after Eevee? And she kind of speaks specifically to Eevee and says, I think you found where you want to be, don't you? And Eevee's kind of just nuzzling. And Chloe's like, are you sure it's okay? And Pinery's basically like, it was my idea. And Go's like, how about that? You do have your first catch. It's going to be this Eevee. And then I'll be a son of a gun if we didn't get an absolute perfect example of an Ash Ketchum special. Because Chloe kneels down and is presenting the Pokeball, and Eevee, freaking knocks the Pokeball out of Chloe's hand with a little back tilt of the head, and Eevee essentially catches itself. I mean, it's not quite, at least Ash had to throw its Pokeball, but Eevee's like, no, I'll just handle this part. And what I thought was really cute is Yamper kind of walks up and is like, did she just catch it herself? And obviously it does the traditional 3 shakes and bing. And Go has the absolute stones to be like, way to go, Chloe. Like Chloe did anything. And,
yeah, for real.
And then Chloe immediately lets Eevee out. So, I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, other than, as Grant stated earlier, to kind of establish ownership. And then, Eevee comes back down into Chloe's arms, and then we have this ending shot of, Chloe's in mid-catch and Yamper's just happier than a pig in shit. And then we're back at, I don't know, the dorms, the professor's, sitting room or whatever, and
Professor
Pikachu and
Professor Cirrus.
There we go. And Pikachu and Eevee and Sobble and Yamper are playing around, and Ashes are which one of them says it? Ash is like, oh, they're palling around like they've been friends forever. And Chloe's like, oh, thank goodness. And then Chloe gets her very own, for goodness sake, it's a Pokédex, but it's not.
Rotom phone.
A Rotom phone. And then, the episode's almost over, so we have to get one of these per episode. So Chloe holds it up to Eevee, and we see Eevee's number. Was Eevee really 133?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, that seems higher than I would have thought.
Yep. Right after Doe.
we find out that Eevee is literally categorized as the evolution Pokemon, which it probably always has been. I just didn't realize it back when Eevee only had 3 of them. Basically what Paneri said, it's a normal type, but it has unstable DNA, and it possesses a wide range of evolutionary possibilities, and basically we get a flashback of Paneri saying just that. Well, or no, she says the line about perhaps not being on its right path yet. And Chloe puts her phone back and picks up Eevee and is like, let's take our time finding our paths together. And it's just this really sweet, sappy ending, and we get this nice little drawing shot of Eevee and Chloe, and it's just wholesome as all get out, really, honestly. And then we get the credits, and then we're out.
All right, and that is the episode, everybody. So how did you both enjoy this episode? I'm going to give it to Grant first. And Grant, what would you give this episode as an introduction into Journeys out of 5 stars?
I'd give it a 3.
Okay.
It was okay.
All right. And Doug, what about you?
This is a 4 for me. I had a blast watching this episode. We got multiple glimpses of kind of Pokemon and their, acting like natural without like human interaction. Like when Eevee was trying to fit in with its evolutionary forms, or when Yamper and Eevee first encountered each other.
Okay.
You felt the connection with Eevee and Chloe like right away. Like I said, you had to shout out the Ash Ketchum special of catching a Pokemon. And right under the wire, we got an introduction to the Rotom phone. And it's not as annoying as Dexter, which I really appreciate. Because let's face it, Dexter got annoying there towards the end. For an introduction, honestly, if there would have been a little more battling other than just the customary getting rid of Team Rocket for a week, this might have been a 4.5.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go with 3.5. I did think this episode was okay. I did have a little bit of a gripe with this episode when I first watched it, because I thought we were getting a different one when I watched it in Japanese, because I was gearing up for a different episode. But watching this in English, it is different. I do still prefer the Japanese version, but I'm gonna give it a solid 3.5. So I'll say that this was a good episode. But yeah, thank you both for going over this and getting our intro into the Journey series, everyone. And thank you again for coming on, Grant.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Always a pleasure to have you.
And I will be in contact with you. Probably it'll be about 4 weeks, and that when we're doing our Poke Breakdown, and we'll have you back to talk all things Pokemon and not just a specific episode with us. And that way you can kind of let your hair down and talk some Pokemon, anything Pokemon related. So. And then I'll update a lot of our fans on the Pokemon Horizon series after getting about a month or 2 months worth of episodes at that point. So, yeah, it should be a really good Poke Breakdown.
Nice.
So.
And I'm going to try to watch an episode or 2 myself. Just kind of see if I can get kind of a lay of the land. And who knows? Maybe in 10 years when we're caught up, maybe we'll cover Horizons.
Yeah, maybe one day, but we're gonna get through this one first before we get to any Horizons that
right.
is out there. So, All right, but again, thank you, Grant. Let's see. I don't really think I have anything else to say. Do you have anything else to say, Grant, before we end today's episode?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. How about you, Doug? Anything else for you?
I don't think so. This was just a solid hang, and I'm glad to get another one out to the fine people.
All right. Sounds good. All right, everybody. Well, then go ahead, Grant, and say goodbye to our fans, Grant.
Goodbye, fans.
All right. And Doug, go ahead and give your goodbye, Doug.
Goodbye, Doug.
And this is Professor Chris G telling all of you that we will be back next week with an episode called A Pinch of This, A Pinch of That. Have a good night, everybody.